Miami Mayor Francis Suarez.
I'm feeling the energy. I'm feeling the energy here this morning. I wish I was a stand-up comedian. This is like perfect for stand-up comedy. I want to thank you all for being here this morning, kicking off Art Basel Week. Amazing in the city of Miami. I want to thank the Algorand team for having me this morning. I want to give a special appreciation to Dr. Mikali, Stephen, and Sean for bringing Decipher to Miami. Thank you, guys. Thank you. I'm starting to feel like this could be an HQ2 or maybe an HQ1 for Algorand in the future. I don't know. And I'm also excited for today's conversation with the inimitable Mike Arrington. Why don't you give your hand, give a round of applause for Mike. But before I begin, I want to say to every single technologist, founder, and funder that's building in the Algorand ecosystem that Miami wants you. We need you here to build, and we are committed to your success. As I got to learn about Algorand and the elegance of the algorithm and the science of this important blockchain technology, I felt like Miami and Algorand share a common ethos. I know Algorand seeks to be a secure, scalable, and decentralized smart contract platform. Each one of those elements, security, scalability, and decentralization, are key pieces of the type of city we're seeking to build here in the city of Miami. It is no secret to all of you and to the world that I've kind of become America's Bitcoin mayor. Mike thinks that's crypto mayor, so crypto mayor. You've all seen the tweets, but more importantly, you've seen the meaningful actions that we've taken to embrace and harness the power of Web 3.0. Ultimately, I truly believe that the road forward for cities lies in channeling the power of blockchain technologies to make offerings for our residents more robust in support of quality of life, ease of commerce, and competitiveness. I'm excited to see Planet Watch, which leverages Algorand, select Miami as the first US city for large-scale development of its air quality sensors. That's worth a round of applause, absolutely. In this city, we take your health, we take sustainability, and we take our blockchain very seriously. Thank you, Claudio, for doing this for us. Thank you so much. Let's give Claudio a big round of applause. I'm extremely excited for what lies ahead. With the builders I've met in the Algorand system, I look at Algorand as being a critical L1 layer in helping cities develop solutions on a range of complex challenges like climate change, municipal services, fintech, and beyond. I want to close with a quote I read from the founder of Algorand, the esteemed Dr. Silvio Micali. Collaboration always wins over competition. And of course, it's more fun to do. I put a little Francis Suarez spin on it. Here in Miami, we are ready to collaborate, to show the nation that we can collaborate. How much division is there in this country? And together with blockchain technologies like Algorand, we're going to build for the future. I'd like to welcome now Mike Arrington to join me for a few minutes and for a conversation. Mike, come on up here, buddy.
I almost face planted right there.
That would have been interesting. Certainly made for an interesting beginning of the conversation.
So, Mr. Mayor, I've lived here 5 months from the West Coast, thanks to you. And I've met you a few times. You're part of the community. You're always out meeting people, but I've never had the chance to interview you, and so
scary.
I just want to ask. So first of all, you aren't an asshole, and I don't understand because
I have one, but I'm not one. That's right.
every politician I've ever met, particularly on the West Coast, they're assholes. I don't know if you've met any of them.
No comment.
So why aren't you an asshole?
Well, I have my parents to thank for that. My wife, my 3 sisters, my faith, and I think, my vision. When I put out the "How can I help" tweet, it wasn't that I wanted to do something revolutionary. It wasn't that I wanted to do something that was, sort of hyper viral or anything like that. It was really my ethos. It was really what I'm about and what I've been about for 12 years as a public servant. I try to go about my day every single day trying to help people. It's not a complicated concept. And what really struck me as a little bit odd, frankly, was how many people thought it was odd that I tweeted out, "How can I help?" How many people thought it was earth-shattering when I thought it was sort of like normal. And so it really highlighted for me that there probably is a lot of assholes in this business. And thankfully, I'm not one of them.
Okay, well, we can drop that. I will say, though, you did share with me last night a text exchange you had with another politician, and I asked you to make that public. You said it will never become public, and I won't go into more detail unless you'd like to show it to everybody. But it sounds to me like some other politicians, instead of becoming more like you, are doubling down on the asshole thing. And and you just said like it's not rocket science. Like what's so hard about just not being a jerk all the time?
I think they're also doubling down on a broken set of promises. I think as a society, government is meant to deliver on a set of common promises. And I think for us here in Miami, the common promises are keep taxes as low as humanly possible, which, by the way, ironically has doubled the size of our budget, while those who've raised taxes have continued to lose investors and creators. Treat people with respect. We want to be a pro-innovation city, while other cities are blaming innovators and creators for all of the bad things that are happening in their cities and not taking responsibility for their own part of it. And I think the third thing is, and this is near and dear to my heart, while a lot of cities in America are defunding their police, we're increasing funding for our police. We love our police officers here. We just hired 30 more. And guess what happened? I know this is going to shock you. Our crime went down. And while you see in urban America homicides going through the roof, in Miami, we're actually reduced our homicides this year from last year. And that's because we invest in public safety. We think public safety is an incredibly important brand. And so I feel like they're not only doubling down on their personality, I think it's really they're doubling down on a false promise, on a bad promise that will not bring prosperity to their citizens.
Yeah. In the audience, and I know that we're also being live streamed to a lot more people, but who here lives in Miami? So actually, most people here don't.
Wow, that's awesome.
One of the things that
we should all move to Miami, by the way.
Yeah. One of the things that surprised me when I moved here, you were talking about the police, was that the police are in a pretty good mood. Mm-hmm. The police feel like they've been, beaten down in all these other cities, but here they're friendly, they're nice. You wave to them, they wave back. People like the police. It just seems like everything's going pretty well. So thank you so much.
Yeah, you got it.
Of the people here who don't live in Miami, which is most of you, raise your hand if you're considering moving to Miami.
It's a pretty big number.
Yeah, I would have expected more. I mean, why not everybody? Okay.
Mike, we're going to hire you as chief ambassador.
What does that pay? Does that pay well?
No, unfortunately it doesn't.
No.
In Bitcoin, it pays.
Are you now getting your salary in Bitcoin?
I am, absolutely.
Can you commit now to start taking it in algo? I
Sure.
feel like...
So here's what I'll do. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take one paycheck in Bitcoin and one paycheck in algo. How about that?
Oh,
fair enough?
Okay. Yeah.
And by the way, let me just clarify that. I don't mean one paycheck. I mean, I get paid every 2 weeks. So one of my 2 weeks in Bitcoin, one of my 2 weeks in algo forever, going forward. Just to be clear, I don't want a New York mayor trying to one-up me or anything like that.
I think you might find the algo paycheck does better over time than the Bitcoin
see.
paycheck. So
that's
again,
the beauty of competition.
Just speak to the crowd. These guys, I assume everybody here is an algo bull.
Awesome.
By the way, algo socks? Do you have a pair?
I actually do have a pair of algo socks. Today I'm wearing my How Can I Help socks, But I do have Ago socks, and I do wear them every once in a while. Yeah, I do have them.
Yesterday, you told me that you think this week will be. If don't let me misstate what you said,
Yeah,
but that
I
you
won't,
think
don't
there'll be
worry.
more NFT sales this week than ever before because of Art Basel. Explain that to me.
So Art Basel is the largest art show in the world. This is going to be, I think, because of all the pent-up demand with COVID, it's going to be, I think, the biggest Art Basel ever. And it just happens to be sort of as NFTs are coming into mainstream. So my contention is that this will be the largest gross sale of NFTs in the history of the planet, and it'll be right here in Miami this week. So we'll see. But that's my contention. Nobody's been able to disprove it yet.
So I don't know if everybody in here is familiar with Miami Coin, and maybe you could give a quick overview
Sure.
and talk about your long-term vision for that.
Yeah, thanks for asking. I think, Miami Coin, what's exciting about it is we're a pro-innovation city. And so we try to focus on what are things that we can do as a city to create prosperity and create innovation. And so Patrick Stanley and Munib, among others, came to talk to me about a project that they had been sort of collaborating on, which was, and they were the developers of another blockchain called Stacks. And they wanted to develop this coin, which is called Miami Coin, and a percentage of the mining revenue. In Bitcoin, as we know, the miners get 100% of the mining revenue from Bitcoin, which is why obviously we have a tremendous amount of Bitcoin mining. But in Miami Coin's case, 30% of the mining benefit goes into a digital wallet for the city. And so we thought, maybe this thing will generate $3 million in a year. Everybody thought if it generated $3 million in a year, that would be phenomenal. It's generated approximately $20 million in 3 months. So yeah, so I think it's a symptom of Miami's crypto forwardness. And I think that's exciting for the city. I think, New York just launched its coin. I haven't looked at it recently in terms of how much it's generated, which, by the way, they asked me for advice, and they were going to do San Francisco and Austin. And I said, I don't think so, not a good idea. And they ended up going with New York, and I think they had raised about $10 million the first week. I don't know where they're at today, but it's really a successful model. I call it the potential third way, which is to have an economic benefit and not fit into the involuntary tax system or the voluntary philanthropy system, but create an economic model that creates resources. And it is theoretically possible if the trends continue, and then we're able to find utilization that grows the market cap by 4x to 5x, it is theoretically possible for the city of Miami to actually be run without taxes, which would be pretty incredible.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it would be amazing.
So city-states who become some of the first moves they make are to create their own currency. Are you considering breaking Miami off from the United States and creating your own city-state?
Well, I think that's already happening. Yeah, I think it's funny because I see a generational schism between people in my father's generation. My father came to this country at 12, got scholarships to school and is very educated, but still struggled a bit with the concept of crypto and crypto coins. And so I think there's a generational issue. They grew up in a world where currency was backed by gold, and then currency was backed by the full faith and credit of a government and sort of all these policymakers. And I think they're having a hard time with the concept of why would a community support these assets that in their mind don't have a specific backing or originator, et cetera. And I think what's interesting is in my generation, it's the exact opposite. In my generation, we're actually very happy that it's not backed by some of these things, because we see the fraud and the manipulation and the corruption that is oftentimes a symptom of human involvement in some of these endeavors. And particularly when you think of Central America, South America, and Africa, and even the United States to some extent. I think it's exciting to see these programs that are developing solutions that could have a huge societal benefit that we don't talk about enough, frankly.
You're smooth. I asked you if you're going to break the city off and become your own country, and you just answered the question you wanted to answer. That's
right.
Great. Yeah.
That's a tactic.
It was well done.
Yeah.
I feel like you know what you're doing. Okay, is there an announcement that you want to make today about Planet Watch?
Well, I think we just said it, that Planet Watch is choosing Miami
Yep.
as the first city in America where it's going to put its sensors, and we're very grateful because, you know, we believe in data here in Miami, and we think that our decisions should be data driven, and we also believe that our residents should be informed. And for us to say, for example, that we're going to be a carbon neutral city, which we've pledged to do by 2050 through C40, and we want to create health. We're the healthiest city in America. We're just ranked the #1 healthiest city in America. By the way, we're also ranked the happiest city in America. But health and happiness is intertwined with air quality, with water quality, and we live in a world where sensors are reasonable in terms of expense, and they have a huge benefit in terms of branding and in terms of real, true, substantive information that our residents would want to know, and that you would all want to know if you're living in a city. You don't want to just know what the homicide rate is. You don't want to just know what the burglary rate is. You want to know what the air quality rate is, so that you can decide where you want to live your life. The most important decision we make is what we do with our time. And so where we live, to Mike's point, is probably the most important decision that we make, and we don't value it, I think, enough. But I think this is one way of valuing that decision.
How many people do you think you and your team are directly responsible for getting to move to Miami? It's tens of thousands, right?
It's more than we get credit for.
Yeah.
I can tell you. And it's funny because, you know, we've worked really hard, and Saif, who's here with me today, Saif, let's give everybody give it up for Saif. Saif runs my Venture Miami office, and he's really the brainchild of a lot of the initiatives. You know, in life, the press wants to see politicians fail. They want to see elected officials fail. That is essentially their objective. And when we succeed, when we innovate, when we break through that mold, it's really exciting. And sometimes it's even exciting to see them try to make us fail, right? Them try to create a counter narrative to the narrative that's the real narrative, the truth. I think we were talking about the truth last night a little bit, and there's this battle for the truth. And I think certainly crypto, blockchain is going to democratize information without a doubt. And I think you're seeing platforms that allow people to express the truth in new structures, in new ways, directly to the people. And it's very exciting. I have to say, it's exciting to have a social media platform that I have, because I can get what I consider to be the truth out there and the narrative of what we're doing without a filter that is not going to necessarily want to tell my story the way I want to tell it.
All right, last question, and I think I'm not supposed to ask this one. Are you going to run for governor of Florida? Or are you going to skip right to president of the United States of America?
I'll tell you two stories. The first is, if the crypto community could decide, it probably would be the latter and not the former, right? Skipping one and going directly to what I call the big job. But it was funny. I did Los Angeles, Silicon Valley, and San Francisco, and I was just blessed.
The politicians there must love it when you roll through California.
I don't think I'm on their Fab Five, but I did it, and I had just been reelected. I was blessed to be reelected in my hometown by 80%, which is, the head of my security says 80% is 100%, right? Because nobody agrees on anything 100% of the time. But I felt like if I had been running for mayor of one of those cities that I was in the West Coast, I would have probably gotten elected by 95%. So I mean, I think there's a lot of, I'll put it to you this way to answer the question. I think there's a lot of excitement for a next generation candidate. I do think there's a lot of excitement in our community, in our country, for a pro-crypto candidate. And I think that people don't realize how systemic, how really deep crypto has penetrated into this country and into this world. They just don't fully get it. And if we can mobilize that community, any candidate that can tap into that can provide a vision, because there's a lack of inspiration in our country, that can provide a vision, that can provide inspiration, and that can tap into that community, I think has a really great chance of leading this country.
Awesome. Thank you so much.